All right, welcome to our intermediate class today. And our theme today is on the mind. So there are, most people come to yoga to work with their bodies, right? They're like, oh, I'm stiff, I'm sore, I'm inflexible, or I want to get stronger. And that's often the motivation to come to a yoga class. But what many people find is that what keeps them coming back is actually the effect that it has on the mind. And in the Yoga Sutras, which is the text that sort of outlines the practice and theory of yoga, the very beginning of that text states that the actual definition of yoga is to bring the mind into a place where it's focused. It's not to stop the mind from thinking, which is what a lot of people think about meditation, is stopping the mind from thinking, but to bring the mind into focus so what we're doing and what we're thinking are congruent. Right? So often we're doing something kind of mindlessly and we're thinking about something else and usually stressing about something else, right? Something we didn't do, or something we said shouldn't have, or something that someone said to us, or replaying situations, whatever it is. That incongruency in itself creates stress when we're doing something and thinking about something else. And on top of that, what we're usually thinking about is something stressful. Not always. However, studies have shown that even if we're not thinking about something stressful, if we're just thinking about something else neutral or pleasant, we actually still have a better effect on the mind and our sort of peace of mind if we're congruent, if our thoughts are mirroring what we're actually doing. And so one of the things we do in yoga often is coordinate the breath, and that helps to keep the mind engaged with what we're doing, because the mind has to kind of work with bringing the actions and the breath together. Now, not everyone really enjoys coordinating the movements with the breath. Sometimes if the breath is naturally less long or shorter, then it feels like you're rushing the practice. So if you coordinate with the breath and that works for you, great. If not, you can always take extra breaths in there, or you can just breathe normally and do the practice at a pace that feels right for you. But the main thing is that when your mind goes wandering off and you notice that you invite your attention back to what you're doing. So we're going to do a check-in today that asks us to look at all the different aspects of our being that yoga affects, and that's the body, the breath, the mind, the emotions, and that deeper part of ourselves that we can't see or touch or feel, which is the spirit. So we're going to start lying down so you can get comfortable on your mat, and we'll do our check-in lying down, and then we'll go from there. So I'll see you on the mat. So you can go ahead and lie down. So I will stay seated because it's easier for me to talk when I'm sitting, but you can go ahead and lie down on your mat. You can have your knees bent or straight, whatever is comfortable for you. Let your hands come to rest on your body somewhere where you might be able to feel the breath. Now, if that's not comfortable for you, just place your hands wherever you like, on the floor or somewhere else on your body. So let's start first by tuning into the physical body. So notice where your body makes contact with the ground and feel that pressure. And so often we pay zero attention to the body unless it hurts. And sometimes it's a little bit even challenging to feel or notice the body when it feels neutral. So I'll share that you may feel numb or you may feel disconnected from parts of your body as you tune in, and that's perfectly normal. Sometimes just bringing some movement can help to bring some feeling. So notice how your body feels where it intersects with the ground, and then you may have a little more sensation. And I also invite you to just let your attention wander through your body and see where it gets pulled. So often our attention gets pulled to areas of the body that don't feel so good, where there's pain or where there's holding or tension or tightness, that's fine. You can let your mind go to those places. And then I invite you, when you notice one of those places, if there is such a place in your body that doesn't feel so good, see if you can then go to somewhere that does feel good. And that may just be the absence of pain or discomfort. It may be somewhere that feels neutral or where you don't feel much. And then find another spot, and maybe if there's tension there, follow up by noticing somewhere in your body that does feel good. So you're kind of pendulating back and forth between what maybe feels a little uncomfortable to what feels neutral or comfortable in your body. So I'll give you a minute or so to just go through that process of noticing your physical body. And then start to tune into the breath. So the breath is really interesting because it happens automatically, but it also can be affected by our attention and our control. So we're not trying to change the breath in any way, just noticing the breath. And the breath moves the body. So notice how the breath impacts and affects your body. Notice that movement. There's no need to change the breath. You're just being aware of it and its movement in relation to your body. And then I invite you to tune into your mind. So notice the quality of your mind today. Are you distracted? Are you thinking about something else? Does it keep pulling your attention? Notice that with as much compassion as possible. To really encourage you to welcome whatever you notice today with open acceptance and a non-judgmental attitude. So if your mind is a busy place that will not focus, notice that with compassion. And often when we bring our attention to our thoughts, we realize just how packed and busy our minds are. So you're in very good company if that's what you notice when you bring your attention to your mind. So simply notice, where is my mind? Don't try to control it. Just notice. Is my mind a stormy place, a calm place, a distracted place? Then I invite you to notice or be aware of any emotions that may be present. And you may not be aware of any particular emotions. So again, just notice that with as much openness and acceptance as possible. And if you feel some strong emotions, again, just paying attention with as much openness as possible. So emotions might show up as thoughts or as sensations in the body. So simply notice what's present for you as you tune in. And then spirit is that deeper part of ourselves that we can't access with our conscious minds. When we clear the stuff in our minds that sort of stands in the way of being really with ourselves, then we start to get glimpses of spirit. Right? So we clear the thoughts, we clear the emotions through the practice, not through pushing them away, because that actually doesn't work. Right? We try to stop thinking and all we do is think harder. So it's really about making friends with our thoughts, noticing our thoughts, but not being distracted by them. Same with our emotions. We are aware of them, we notice them, but we don't get carried away in the flood of our emotions. And when we come to that place of equanimity, we start to become more in tune with what our spirit is guiding us to. So I invite you now to bring some deeper breaths in, to wake yourself up with a little bit more oxygen coming in. Stretch your arms and the legs out, just as though you've woken up from a nice, long, luxurious nap. Take a moment to move your body in whatever way it would feel good in order to start to wake up and prepare for our practice today. And then as you feel ready, you can roll over onto your side and make your way up to a seated position. And we'll start with a few seated postures and then we'll go from there. So I'm sitting on my meditation cushion. If you have something similar, you can sit on that, or even a chair or a folded blanket or a cushion, whatever helps you to feel comfortable. For some, just being right on the ground is fine too. So as you come upright, I invite you to find a nice length in your spine and feel your two sit bones, if you're able, on whatever you're sitting on, chair, cushion, ground. And then just rock your weight from one side to the other. Feel your weight shift from one sit bone to the other. And then let's make that into a circle. So you'll bring your chest forward over the legs from one side to the other and back around. Very, very simple movement, but I invite you to really tune in. You can close your eyes if it helps. And notice, feel the shift of weight around the bottom of your pelvis. Feel any pressure. Perhaps if you're sitting cross-legged, you might feel pressure on your ankles or feet or knees as you circle. And pressure shouldn't equal pain. You're just noticing, maybe notice any stretch in the hips as you move. And then if you switch directions, what changes for you? Starting to just really tune in and bring the mind online with what's happening in the moment. And when you notice that you've gone elsewhere, gently bring the mind back. Be curious about your experience. Be curious about your body. Be curious about your breath. Be curious about what's going on in your mind without getting attached. Right? And then eventually make your way back to the center. And let's bring the palms together. Put a little bit of pressure against your palms until you feel some stretch in your wrists and forearms. You might feel the muscles across your chest engage a little bit. And then take the heels of your hands apart, but keep the length of your fingers together, right to the bases of your fingers. The fingers a little stretch. And then release that pressure and turn your fingertips down with the backs of your hands coming in. And very gentle pressure against the backs of your hands. And you can draw the elbows down a little bit. And then do some circles, just in whatever way comes out. So no specific way of circling one way or the other. The hands can be together or you can circle them apart. And then make your hands into tight fists and give them a squeeze, 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 squeeze. And then press the hands out in front of you. Fingertips up, fingers spread. Good, and then squeeze and draw in. You can take your fists and turn them down towards the ground, stretching across the top of your hand, and then press out with your palms, fingertips up, and moving back towards your face. And then curl your hands around, come in. Good, and then stretch out. Great. Good. Give your hands a shake, your arms a shake. And then we'll take them out to the sides, stretching out. Start with your fingers reaching out from the center, wide hands, feel your hands spreading. And then slowly rotate to turn your palms up. You can keep turning to bring the baby fingers up a little more if possible. And then rotate the other way. And this time keep turning. Your shoulders will rotate in a little bit. And then rotate out. Good. And then bring the palms straight down. And start to slowly raise up your fingertips so you feel some stretch in the arms. Try to keep your shoulders down and relax. And then we're going to take the hands into fists, turn the fist down as we did before. And then fingers wide, lifting up. If your arms get tired, you can do one of two things. You can take a break, or you can relax where you can relax and find a little inner strength and keep going. Good. Now with the fingers pointing up, do a few little circles. Again, your arms may get tired. Check in if you can stay with the tiredness and find some effort without tension. If you're bringing in tension and you're clamping down on your jaw to do this, then take a break. Right. Now, relax the hands, give them a shake. Right. And then slowly lower your hands onto your thighs or your knees and pause there for a moment. Really let your shoulders down and feel what you notice in your arms. So I mentioned earlier, sometimes we don't feel much physically in the body until we start to move it. And then we may feel a lot of sensation. So notice your wrists, your hands, your arms, shoulders, and what is present now with that little bit of movement. Okay, so we're going to take it over onto all fours. So you can come onto your hands and knees. Lining the hands up under the shoulders, knees under the hips. And we'll move into Chakravakasana, which is moving from the cow position, slightly bent arms with an arched back, slight lift in the head and tail, breathing in, and then exhaling, rounding your back, pressing your heels, hips back toward your heels, head toward the ground. And then inhaling, coming back up into that all fours position with an arch, exhaling, rounding, and moving to child's pose. So go at your own pace, and as I mentioned earlier, if you find coordinating with the breath doesn't come out in a pace that works for you, just move at a comfortable pace, breathe normally, and continually bring your awareness and attention back to this moment. So two things that are always present in this moment are your breath and your body. So if you find your mind wandering, you can use one of those two to help to bring your attention back. Let's start to add in downward dog as you're ready. So you'll come to all fours. On an inhale, if you're coordinating breath, then you'll exhale into downward dog. Keep your knees bent, let your head come between your arms. And then you'll keep moving. So you'll come back to all fours with an inhale. Exhale, move to child's pose, head coming down. Inhale back to all fours and feel free to follow your own pace, your own breath, your own comfortable pace. Starting to flow in that movement rhythmically. If you like, you can come into downward dog and stay a few breaths, maybe walking on the spot if that feels good for you. Really try to let your head go. You could even wiggle it side to side or forward and back to make sure you're not bringing tension into your neck. Okay, and then let's come back down to all fours. We'll give the wrists a little break by coming into child's pose. You can have your knees together or apart for child's pose. Your head could be on the ground or on your hands. We'll take several breaths here, softening the back of your body, your turtle shell, softening to open a little more with your breath. And see if you can stay tuned in to this moment, staying with your breath, staying with sensation. Always inviting the attention back whenever it wanders. Okay, let's come up to all fours. And we'll come into a gentle twist. So what you can do is raise your arm first out to the side, breathing in. And then exhale, swing through and under so the hand slides between the other hand and leg. Shoulder comes down. And we'll repeat that. So you'll lift with an inhale Again, coordinating the breath is optional. If you are coordinating, exhale as you come through. Inhale as you lift. Okay, if it feels good for you, you can stay in that twist for a few breaths. Otherwise, keep moving. Or if neither feels good for you at this point, rest in child's pose again. Okay, when you're ready, we'll come back up to all fours. We'll do a few rounds of all fours to child's pose or Chakravakasana if you like the Sanskrit terms. Notice what's present as you do this. I notice one side feels quite different from the other after twisting only one way. Next time we come up to all fours, we'll come into the twist on the other side. So now you're taking the other arm out to the side, you're extending as you breathe in if you're coordinating breath, and then exhaling to come through. And you'll repeat that a few more times, letting the body gently warm up to the twist. And then go ahead and stay if that feels right for you, or keep moving if that is a better option for you. So if you feel jammed up in the neck or shoulder when you're staying in that position, definitely keep moving or just rest in child's pose. And always, always, always listen to your body. What I offer is a suggestion as a guide, not as a ruler. So finding your own way that's best for you based on my suggestions and what feels right for your body. Gradually coming back up to all fours. And again, a few rounds of all fours to child's pose. You can also alternate in downward dog as we did earlier if you like. Take time in either child's pose or downward dog or a little bit in each. Or keep moving between those three positions. So a couple more at your own pace. If your wrists are getting tired, take a break in child's pose. Even do some circles with your wrists in child's pose. So we're going to spend a little more time on the hands today, so I want to make sure that you take as many breaks as you need to. So eventually coming back to all fours. So we'll start by trying this movement on all fours, and then we'll try it from downward dog. So we're going to take one knee, bring it in toward the nose, round the back. You'll exhale here, and then inhale, stretch back. Press the heel away, toes down. And you want to internally rotate the hip a little bit so your toes point down. So for most people, there's a tendency to externally rotate. See if you can find that nice straight position. So then breathe out as you bring the knee in, and then inhale as you stretch out. You can point your toes as they come in, and flex, reaching back with the heel. Great, and then let's bring that knee down and we'll do the other side. Again, if you need a break at any time, just come back, do a few movements for your wrists. I recognize you're spending a lot of time here, so please take care of yourselves. The next side, exhale, knee in. Inhale, flexed foot, internally rotating at the hip, reaching back. Exhale in. Inhale, reaching back. Great, and bringing that knee back down. Let's do a few circles with the hips, releasing any tension that we may have inadvertently brought in with that movement. Circle a couple times each way. And again, in these simple movements, it's really easy for the mind to wander. See if you can get really curious about what you're noticing, what you're feeling as you do these movements, allowing your mind to stay as present as possible. Great, let's come back to child's pose. Rest for a moment. You can rest the head on the ground or head on your hands. So let the wrists relax. If you want to do some circles for your wrists while you're in child's pose, please do. And come back to the breath. Notice what you are able to notice here, where you feel the breath, where you feel restricted. What else comes into your awareness as you come into child's pose? It could be your body, your breath, your mind, your emotions. What are you aware of in this moment? What is true right now? So in a moment, we'll come back up to all fours and we'll repeat that same movement we just did. And you have an option now to either do the same thing we just did on all fours or to try the same thing but from downward dog. So I'll demonstrate downward dog. You can choose whichever position you like. You're going to keep your knees a little bent if you come into downward dog. That's going to help you to keep your spine nice and long. You'll bring one knee in and then stretch it back. And repeat that. So exhale as you come in if you're coordinating breath. Inhale as you reach back. All right, now this time, a little trickier as you exhale and come in. See if you can step right forward into lunge and modify as you need to get there. So you might need to bring the back knee down. Pause there and lunge lengthen from the back heel to the crown of your head. Okay, if you want to get the weight off your wrists and you want a little more challenge, you can lift up here into a higher lunge, maybe taking the hands to the knee or overhead. Right, and then we're going to step back to downward dog. So hands come down, step back, lower your knees, come to child's pose for a moment. Again, take the weight off your wrists, give yourself a moment. You can do some circles here if you like, or just rest. And then again, you have the choice when you come back to try the other side to either work from all fours again or from downward dog. So obviously downward dog is going to be more weight on the wrist, so please work with the position that's best for you. Coming up, if you're coming into downward dog, other leg this time will come in towards the nose, exhaling, reach back, inhaling. And then this time, you're going to add that step through. So exhale, step forward. You can come to your fingertips here if you like. Again, modify to get there however you need to. And then you can either keep your hands down. You're welcome to lower the back knee if you find that easier. And you're also welcome to lift into high lunge if that's available and feels right for you. When you're ready, if you've taken your hands up, you'll bring them back down. We're going to step forward this time. So we come to a standing forward bend. Let your head release down. Let your arms hang. Soften your knees. Take a few breaths. And then hands to shins, come up partway, breathing in. Exhale, release. And then next inhale, let's come all the way up. And exhale to bring the arms down to your sides. So be a little bit apart here. We're going to come into some hip circles. And again, really encourage you to tune into the minute little details of what you experience and what you feel as you do this. So hands can be on the hips, just to get them out of the way, soften your knees, and start by taking the hips one way and the other. Notice what you feel in your inner, sort of in the inside of the hip, in the outside of the hip, maybe in the sides of the waist or the lower back. And then as you shift that into a circle, notice what changes. So as the hips come forward to one side, back and around. Notice there might be some sounds that you hear. It may be all sensation. If it doesn't feel good, make your circle smaller or modify a little bit to honor whatever's going on in your body. Circle the other way as well. And again, notice, tune in. What do you feel? Imagine yourself right in that joint and notice feeling that circle. Great, let's come right back up to a neutral position, legs apart. There's a tendency to lock the knees here, so let's soften the knees and keep really loose in this position. So we'll take the arms up, breathing in, and we're going to lower one arm as we exhale and reach over to that side. Good. Inhale, come up. Exhale, lower the other arm as you reach to that side. Inhale, lift. Exhale to the side. Great, let's stay for a few breaths on this side. Just let that lower arm hang and reach up with the upper arm. Good, breathe here. Notice, what are you aware of? What thoughts are in your mind? What sensations in your body? Okay, let's come up. Exhale to the other side. And again, notice what you experience, what you're aware of. When I'm in a class, especially if there's other people there, if I'm working on my own at home, it's not quite the same. But sometimes the teacher will hold a pose longer than I want to, and I notice my mind getting quite agitated. So if we're holding this a little longer than feels comfortable for you, notice where your mind goes. Right, let's slowly come up. And the other part of that is if it's really uncomfortable for you, just come out of the pose. Let's take the hands onto the thighs, and then we'll lift the tail, lift the head, come into a bit of an arch, and then exhale, elbows come down onto the thighs. Pause here, let your head release down. Fingertips can be together. Take a few breaths with that little bit of traction, pressing back with your arms against your leg, forward with the head. Breathing into the long space of your spine, all the way down to your lower back. And then you can either stay here, or if it feels good for you, you can let the arms dangle down, maybe hold the elbows, or just let them arms rest on the ground, let your head release. Let me get a few more breaths here. I'm going to walk the hands over to one side. And if you want a little bit more challenge here, take your feet a little bit wider apart. Reaching for one leg. You can bend that knee as much as you need to. Let the head come down toward the knee. The hand that's on the same side as the leg can either reach around the outside or can come under the knee and reach for the outer ankle. So it's really going to depend on what's available to you. Another fun option here, challenging option, is to bend that knee that you're going towards. Take the arm on that same side and reach it back behind you. Reach the other arm around behind you the other way and see if there's any way your hands might come together. When you're ready, release That's a difficult one to explain and a little bit hard to watch when you're upside down in the pose. But we're going to bend the knees, come all the way up to the center, and then exhale to release. So that little bind, it's just a little option, a little optional extra for those who want more. It can be quite challenging, especially on the shoulder that needs to get around. And if you like, watch for a second. So as I come down, I'm going to bend that knee and I want to get my shoulder in right close to the knee. Maybe if I show you from this angle, shoulder right close to the knee. And when my arm goes back, in order to get around, my elbow has to be free. And then I can reach around. It's quite tricky, so be cautious with yourself. If it isn't working for you, don't worry about it. Well, let's come forward again. We'll go to the other side. So lifting up. Exhale forward. And you can walk your hands over to that side. So either the arm on that side can come just in front of the leg, or you can bend the knee and reach around to the outside, head coming down. And here's where that bind may be an option for you. Right. When you're ready, walk yourself back to the center. Bend your knees, come to your fingertips and find the length in your spine. Exhale here. Take your arms out to the sides. Take a breath here. And then slowly lift up, pressing into the ground with your feet, reaching up overhead, and then releasing. Let's step the feet together. Give everything a little shake. Walk on the spot a little bit, and just release after that big forward bend. All right, so we're going to work a little bit on balance. And it's a motion that we've been doing a few times already in the class. I'll demonstrate first and then we can try it together. So what we'll do is, if you remember on all fours and in downward dog, we're bringing one knee in and then stretching it back. We're going to do the same here, but as a balance. So what you'll do is just watch for a sec, bring one knee in, and then you're going to come into warrior three, stretching back. And if possible, we'll repeat this a few times. You can exhale in, inhale as you reach back. Now, if this is challenging for you, I encourage you to have a chair to one side. So you can bring the knee in with one arm, reach out, so you're holding on the whole time. So let's give that a try together. If you have a chair handy and you want to use it, you can just bring it to one side. So we'll reach up with both arms. Exhale, bring the knee in, hug it right in. Soften your standing leg as you swing through slowly, taking the arms to the sides. If you lose your balance, don't worry about it. Just come back in. And then back, knee to chest. Exhale if you're coordinating breath. Inhale as you reach back. Great. I'm going to change it a little bit this time. So instead of going to warrior three, we'll step back to warrior one and lift the arms up. And pause here and anchor into your back foot. Really press down into the ground and find that lift from the back heel all the way up through the body, through the arms. Great, let's bring the hands forward either onto the front knee, or you can reach right down to the ground if that's available to you. Let your head release. Take a few breaths here. And then let's lift all the way up, reaching the arms overhead. Right, and then we'll step the feet back together as you bring the arms down. Great, so pause for a moment, let go of that. If that was challenging for you, let go of any story you might have created about whether that makes you good or bad at yoga, and we'll come back to do the other side. So grounding yourself down through the heels, lifting through the crown of the head. Inhale to lift the arms. And then we'll come into the movement on the other side. So knee comes in. And then slowly stretching back. Breathing in as you stretch back. Exhaling as you come in. And again, if you need to breathe in a different pattern to make this work comfortably for you, please do. One more time. Great, and then this time we'll step back, bringing the foot down to warrior one. You can reach the arms up. And again, have that feeling of pressing into the back heel and almost like the earth rebounds energy right up through your body, right up to your fingertips. And then from there, we'll release forward. You can either rest your hands on your knee or reach down for the ground or blocks if you have them handy. Really let your head go. So there's such a strong tendency to keep lifting the head here. Let it go, take a few breaths. And then we're going to lift up into warrior one, reaching all the way overhead again, breathing in. And then as you release, stepping forward to mountain pose. So feet are side by side, about hip distance apart. And we'll lift the arms together overhead. Exhale, come into a forward bend. Let your head release. Inhale, come halfway up, lengthening the crown away from the tail, and then exhale to release. Inhale, lifting all the way up. Good, and exhale, arms down to your sides. To move into a sun salutation now. So you want to start, if you're on a mat, sort of in the front third of your mat or so you've got some room to step back, or just making sure there's nothing behind you. And again, sink down into your heels, lift up through the crown of your head. Drop the chin slightly to feel the back of the neck release and lengthen. And then inhale and lift. Exhale, soften your knees as you bend forward. Inhaling, hands to shins, finding length. And then exhale to fold forward. Well, let's take the right leg. We'll step back into lunge. In lunge, you want the hips low if possible. And then think about drawing the whole back leg forward into the hip and drawing the whole front leg back in towards the hip. So your hips are becoming more square towards the front of your mat. And then from that place of strength, lifting the hands up onto the knee, only if that's okay for you, if you feel steady and comfortable here. Great. Bend the back knee slightly, and then lift up so that the pelvis is straight over the legs. Reach the arms up. And if it's available to you, slowly sink the back knee to the ground. Right. And then from here, we'll bring the hands down. We're going to lift the back knee again and step back to downward dog. Take a few breaths here. You can walk on the spot if you like. Okay, and then the leg that you stepped back with, you're going to keep that foot on the ground, the one that was your, the one that was stepping back is going to step forward. So the leg that was back before is going to lift straight up behind you, as we did before, breathing in, and then exhale, swing through. I say it like it's easy. So find the way to get your leg there that's right for you. Again, hips low. We're going to pull the back leg forward into the hip joint. Pull the forward leg back a little into the hip joint. Bring your hands up onto your front knee. bend your back knee just a little so the pelvis can be even as you come upright. And take the arms overhead. Slowly lower the back knee. If you need to lower your hands first, go for it. Good. And then you'll bring the hands down. We'll lift the back knee again and step forward. Let your head release. Take a breath or two here. And then hands to shins, find length. Exhale, release. Inhale, come all the way up. And exhale, release the arms down. So we'll do one more sun salutation, pretty much the same, but stepping back and forward with the other leg. So if you first step back with your right leg, it'll be the left leg this time, and vice versa. So you'll end up going into the same lunge that you just did at the end of the last sun salutation. So taking a breath in, coming up. Exhale, forward. Inhale, hands to shins, lengthening. Exhale, fold forward. Stepping back with the other leg now. So for me, it's the left, whichever one you didn't step back with first last time. Squaring the hips, so back hip forward, forward hip back slightly. Bring your hands to your front knee. Again, all of this lunge stuff is optional. If it's not comfortable for you, just keep your hands on the ground and wait there. Lifting the arms up, bending the back knee a little so the pelvis is level. So what you might notice, and you can try this, as you straighten your back leg, your pelvis tends to tilt forward and the back arches more. As you bend the back knee, the pelvis becomes level and the back comes neutral, right? So you can try that, straightening and reach up and back with the arms, and then bend, sink down a little. Reach back. Breathe in as you reach back, exhale as you sink down and bend the knee. You don't have to sink all the way to the ground. Good, last one. When you exhale this time, bring your hands down. Step back to downward dog. And walk on the spot. And then let's bring the knees to the ground. Take a breath in here. And exhale, make your way to child's pose. Take a few breaths in child's pose. And we'll come back up to all fours. From all fours, tucking your toes under, reaching up into downward dog. And then whichever leg stepped back is going to be the leg that steps forward. So you're going to lift that leg, stretch it back. And then as you exhale, swing through. Again, squaring the hips, hands onto the front knee. You can experiment here by lifting the arms up, straightening the back leg and finding that arch, and then bending, sinking down a little, straightening the back leg, and extending the arms up and back. Neutral, sink down, arch as you lift. Just the little movements, nothing dramatic. Great, and then let's bring the hands down and step forward. Hands to shins, lengthen. Exhale, fold forward. Another breath here. And then lifting all the way up. And releasing. Ah, lovely. It's getting warm by the fire here, those sun salutations. So take a moment if your breath needs to settle. Just let your breath settle. If your body needs to settle, have a feeling of heels sinking down, crown lifting up. And tune in again to your breath, to your mind, to to your body, to whatever you notice, whatever comes into your awareness. Right. And then keeping a kind of inward focus, slowly make your way to the ground. You're going to come right down onto your back. And have your heels in relatively close to your sit bones, so that your knees are right over your ankles, feet are hip distance apart. The hands can rest a little bit away from the body on the ground, palms facing up, and that puts the shoulders in a really open, relaxed position. But if it's not comfortable for you, please choose a different position for your arms. And we'll start by tuning into the breath again. And as you exhale, just a little bit of pressure down into your feet, just to feel the lower back snuggle into the ground. And then you'll relax as you inhale. So your exhale is just a little bit of pressure into the feet, the lower back moves into the ground. The inhale, just relaxing. A few more breaths with this very subtle pelvic tilting movement. And then after your next exhalation, when your back is pressed deeply into the ground, instead of relaxing on the inhale, you'll press into the feet and start to lift the hips and take 2, 3, 5, 10 breaths to lift. Take your time. Peel the vertebrae off the ground. Coming up onto the back of the shoulders or wherever it's comfortable for you, checking in that your neck is not being compromised at all. Stay in the pose for a breath or two and then come down just as slowly as you came up. Take a breath or two when you reach the ground. Come back to that little gentle rocking movement with your exhale, pressing down into your feet. Inhale, relaxing. And then when you feel ready, after an exhale, you'll start to, again, slowly lift up, peeling the vertebrae off the ground, breathing in whatever way is comfortable. Coming up into a bridge pose, staying for a breath or two in the bridge pose. Don't worry about how high your hips are. Don't try to push your hips to the ceiling. Think more about lengthening from your shoulders to your knees. When you're ready, slowly release down again. Take a few breaths. And then the next one, you're going to have the option of doing some leg movement similar to what we've been doing. So you can either come into bridge and do this, or if it feels like too much from bridge, you can do it lying on your back. So what we'll be doing is either in bridge or just from this position that you're in now, you'll be bringing one knee in toward the body and then stretching it out straight along the ground. So it'll come in and out. You'll either do that on the ground or from bridge. So if you're going to come up into bridge, you'll get up in the same way that we did, pressing down into the feet, down into the lower back. You'll slowly lift up. And then when you get there, if it feels like you can do this without strain, you can shift your weight to one side, bring one knee in, and then stretch it out towards the ground or even to the ground. Exhale, knee in. Inhale, stretch out. If it's too much, lower your hips. And next time, after you've brought the knee in, you can just place it down. Maybe lift up for a breath, and then slowly release down. Before we do the other side, it might feel good just to let the knees go side to side a few times, releasing any effort from the lower back. And then again, you have the option to stay on the ground to do the leg movement or to lift up. So if you're lifting up, you're going to press down as you exhale. Lift the hips as you inhale. Take as many breaths as you need to find the pose that feels right for you, and then you can work with that leg movement again. Lowering the hips if you need to. You're exhaling in. If you're coordinating breath, inhaling to stretch out. Maybe one more here. And then let your foot come down. Again, you can lift for a breath and then slowly sink down. Bring the knees in toward the chest. You can rock a little side to side. Letting go of the effort of the bridge. Bridge is challenging pose on its own once you hold it for a while, but even more so with one leg. You can also circle the knees around now. Squeeze in. And then one more posture here, bringing the feet to the ground, just to release again after that bridge pose, a gentle twist. You can let the knees go one way, head the other as you exhale, and then knees come back to the center, head comes back to the center as you inhale. And just like everything else, coordinate with the breath if that feels right for you. Let it go if it doesn't. Eventually making your way back to the center. And just to even things out before we move into Shavasana, bringing the knees back to the chest, and either moving forward and back with the knees, or if you prefer, you can stretch the legs and arms out and then back in. So lots of gentle movement, stretching for the low back to bring it back to what hopefully feels even and aligned after twisting and doing those one-legged lifts. So any combination of those symmetrical poses that we've just been doing in order to bring everything back to symmetry. Take your time. If you want to spend a little longer with this movement, feel free. If you want to release the feet to the floor and stretch the arms and the legs, that's a nice option as well. So take another minute or so with any movement that might feel good, and then we are going to move next into Shavasana. So you can stay lying down if you like. The option for most people is to lie down for Shavasana, but if you prefer to sit, you are more than welcome to sit. Just take your time. If there's other movement that wants to happen, do that. And whenever you're ready, if you to find your way to a comfortable position. And check in if you want to add any props or any extra clothing or a blanket so that you're as comfortable as possible, please. Please do that. And then eventually coming to stillness if you're not already there. Let's take a moment to come back to the breath, just simply noticing the breath as it is without trying to change it. And then maybe bringing a little bit more attention to your exhale. We're not trying to do anything special with the breath or with the exhale. But having the feeling that as you exhale, your body starts to relax a little bit more with each exhalation. So perhaps those areas where you notice there was tension or holding or discomfort earlier in the class, perhaps as you bring your awareness there now, on your exhale, having the intention of softening and bringing some ease or relaxation into those areas, wherever possible. As you exhale, soften your jaw a little bit more, maybe separate the surfaces of your teeth. Relax around your eyes, across your forehead. Let the skin of your scalp relax and the weight of your head sink down. Shoulders and arms release. Let your hands be soft. Notice if there's any gripping tendency in your hands and see if you can allow your hands to be even softer, more relaxed. Feel the breath moving through your torso, and with each exhalation, allow your chest, your belly, your pelvis to relax even more. Soften the holding around your waist, the lower back, lower abdomen. Let the weight of your pelvis and hips sink down into the ground. If you find that your mind goes elsewhere, even if that elsewhere feels really interesting and juicy, see if you can bring your attention back to this moment. Simply observing the breath, softening the body, letting the thighs and knees relax, the calves and ankles. Releasing the feet, even your toes relaxing. Every time you notice your mind wandering off, gently, firmly bring it back. You can simply notice the breath, using your attention to follow the breath. And always inviting the mind back with kindness, with compassion, with care. Letting go of judgment. I'll share with you the sutra that we've been practicing around today that states that the definition and goal of yoga is to bring the mind into focus. Not to stop our mind from thinking, but to bring the mind into focus with what we're doing in that moment. Yogaschitta vritti nirodha. 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 Notice where your mind is right now. If it's wandered away, come back to your breath. And as you come back to your breath, if you're ready to move on with your day, you can start to deepen your breath. Inviting a little more energy in with a little deeper breath and gradually adding whatever movement might feel good to your body. Stretching, moving, wiggling, however you like. And then eventually, you roll onto one side and pause there for a moment before making your way back to a seated position. And if you choose to stay in Shavasana longer, just ignore me and carry on, enjoy. And eventually drawing yourself back to a seated position and bringing your palms together. Giving yourself all the grace in the world as you practice this humbling skill of bringing the attention back moment to what's happening in the present. Being kind to yourself and knowing that when we start to practice this skill of bringing the mind to the present, we sometimes feel like our mind is busier than ever as we bring the attention there. So be kind, be generous, be good to yourselves, love yourselves, and bring as much attention as you can to the moment. And the result is greater peace, greater ease over time. Namaste. Enjoy your day.